All right, we should probably start. It's 11:01. Today is September 17, 2025. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for attending this information session. For those who do not know me, my name is Pitzel Kotova, and I am the director of the institutional assessment. Let me just admit, Robert. And I am also joined with my colleague, Dr. Garmondio Warway. He is the assessment coordinator who normally responds to most of your emails and questions in msu.assessment email. All right, so this session is about some updates on the institutional assessment policy. We will be talking more at the institutional level, like looking at the 30,000-foot view on what are the expectations and recent changes with the policies. Now, in this slide that you're seeing right now, I hope you're seeing my slide. You can scan the QR codes or type in the URL to access the old and revised assessment policy. So just to give you a little bit of a background, as far as I know, and anyone here who has been long enough doing this assessment at Mer State, there is no assessment policy that exists that is in writing and or that has been approved by any committee before 2021. So that old policy that you're seeing, if you have scanned that QR code, at least on the academic side, that was created in the summer of 2021. And that has never been reviewed until late last year during the fall. And that review ended this year, the summer of 2025. So, why did we review the policy? Mainly because we receive a lot of feedback from programs and administrative units about some nuances and some situations that they're going through within their own programs and administrative units. And on top of that, we have our new SACS COC liaison, Dr. Lori Rowe, who provided like good comments and invaluable feedback. So that those things kind of like influence the decision to really revisit the existing policy, and that's what we did. So with the help of the provost office and the university assessment committee, the policies were approved and it is taken into effect this semester. All right, so what changed? Let me see. Honestly, the change is very minor. The existing policy that we revised, the previous policy, was written more of like a guideline or a standard operating procedure with very little information on what exactly are expected among academic programs and administrative units. And honestly, administrative units are not clearly mentioned in that policy. So you will see there are like two QR codes for policies, for one for academic programs and one for administrative units. But the idea is to separate the guide or the step-by-step on how we conduct our assessment and what are the elements from the actual policy, which basically help us improve to make it or make the policies more robust. So again, what changed? We first emphasize the question, why do we assess? Like why we're doing this over and over? Why are we assessing every year? So if we are gonna ask around, 99% of the time, the answer to this question is we have to adhere with the SAC COC's standards. Um, Even though that is the case, which is like an accountability issue and transparency issue. So given that with the accountability, with that promising our students that they will achieve in the programs that they registered in or the services that we're offering them, they will experience it. We also want to be transparent overall with our stakeholders. So to me, accrediting bodies are just major drivers, but not the main reason why we're conducting assessment. Let me see. So based on that accountability, there are two standards that we are adhering in terms of SAC COC pertaining to the administrative units. One is about the standard 7.3, which is what you're seeing in the slide right now, which is talking more about the administrative side, the effectiveness of the services that they're offering. And another one is also for the administrative side, but this pertains to the academic and student services, like the support in relation to their studies as well with their academics. Now, on the academic program side, we have a separate standard for that, which is more on the student outcomes, learning outcomes. This is what they actually learn from the programs or the department or the college and school itself. So you can clearly see in those stipulations, these are all coming from the resource document from SAC COC. You can check out their website. This is the most updated one. It clearly laid out what are expected. Like I highlighted in all of these slides what are the expectations from our accrediting body. They want us that, at least for the academic side, they want us to identify each of our educational programs to identify expected outcomes, which we call program learning outcomes. For the administrative side, we call it administrative and student support outcomes. And they want us to provide some evidence that we are assessing them and we are seeking improvement. So those are the keywords here. Now, with all that being said, if you're gonna ask me who has been in the assessment realm for over 15 years, somebody's getting in. Okay. The reason why we assess is because similar to other universities, we want to make sure that we continuously improve. That's the main thing, if you're gonna ask me. We want to improve in a sense that students are learning what they're supposed to learn. We want to improve that our services that we offer to our students and even to our colleagues like staff and faculty, because there are other administrative units that cater to our colleagues, staff, and faculty. So we want to make sure that we are effective with our services. So that's the reason why we're conducting assessment. Now, in terms of who is required to submit assessments every year, when I say assessment, that includes assessment plan and assessment report. And this is also already outlined in the new policy that we have. All academic programs that are listed in the Kentucky Council of Post-Secondary Education, or what we call CPE, are required to submit annual assessment, and that includes associate programs, bachelor, graduate, and doctoral programs with all their tracks, as well as certificate programs. Minors, endorsement, they're not required. Now, on the administrative side, if you know that we have this MSU org chart that is widely shared among the public, every administrative units that are listed in that org chart are required to submit annual assessment. Now, before we actually conduct any type of assessment, this is some sort of the foundation of what each program or administrative unit should have. We call this the assessment profile. An assessment profile should include all these elements. One is the program or admin unit mission. Some programs prefer to use the department or the college or school mission, which is okay as long as their learning outcomes can be mapped or linked to that mission statement. Another element which is not really required, but most academic programs, they have this on hand already. These are like program goals. These are the overarching statements. Um, More often than not, they are hard to measure. They are not measurable. And then, of course, the list of our outcomes. We have program learning, again, we have program learning outcomes for academic programs, and we have two different outcomes for the administrative units, depending on what type of service they're doing. So, for example, the institutional effectiveness, we have administrative outcomes because we cater to staff and faculty. We are not directly linked with the students. And finally, curriculum alignment matrix. This is only for the academic programs. If you remember, when you propose a program through Kuali, and it will go through the process of approvals within the academic council and many different committees within that academic council. The list of our courses, the required and even the elective courses, are included in your proposal, and that will be taken away from your proposal, and we can build in terms of assessment. We should be able to build the mapping or the curriculum alignment, meaning we need to align all our courses that students are expected to take for each program to our existing outcome or learning outcome. Now, any changes or revisions that any programs or administrative units want to do, be it due to some feedback coming from the University Assessment Committee, or you were just following the trends, something needs to be changed or to be done with our outcomes or our mission statement. We have a process and we have a form to use for that. We are happy to go or help you navigate through that by changing all these elements that you want to change, and it will all be reflected on all the files that you have with the institutional effectiveness, and also in the system, the assessment platform system that we're using, which is the SPAL system. So yes, it is possible to change any information within your assessment profile as long as there are logical reasons behind it, and it went through the proper process, because this will be looked at and reviewed by the University Assessment Committee. All right, 3-year assessment cycle. What does this mean? So the expectation is that annually we need to conduct assessment. That's number one. Now, the 3-year assessment cycle was created to somehow release everybody from over-assessing or assessment fatigue, because there is this common misconception that we have to assess all our outcomes every year. This is false. This is not true. No matter how many outcomes you have, existing outcomes that you have within your program or your unit, you have the decision, or you can decide which or how many or what outcomes you want to assess in any particular year, as long as all those outcomes will be assessed within the 3-year time frame. So we conduct annual assessment. The second one is that programs and units decide which outcome to assess. We never impose, we never tell anybody which outcome to be assessed. This is there are many different factors that come to play in terms of your outcomes. For example, in the academic programs, there might be some courses that are not offered every year, and you're using that for assessment. So it really depends on what outcome that course is tied to, on when the program will plan to assess their particular outcome, if that makes sense. So the third one is all outcomes must be assessed within the 3 years. Just to give you an example, this is an example of a program with 5 program learning outcomes, with assessment planning that is spread out for the next 3 years. You can see here in year one, which was last year, the program assessed outcome one and outcome three. And then this year, they're planning to focus on assessing outcome five. And then the next year, which is 26, 27, are the two remaining outcomes that have not been assessed, will be assessed. So that's how this program planned out their assessment. Now, when will the outcomes in year one will be assessed again? Again, it's up to the program. It depends. It's up to you. You can reassess it the next year or the next year or on the third year, like in a cycle after the cycle when you renew your 3-year cycle. So this is another example on the administrative side. If there are like 3 student support outcomes, you can clearly see in this second table that the unit is focusing on one outcome at a time. Okay, another example, we have some friends in other departments, at least on the academic side, who adhere to their own professional accrediting bodies. So they are required to assess all their outcomes every year. So it's their decision because they have their own reason, they can also do that. But on the institutional assessment side, at least for the MSU's requirement in terms of assessment, we don't really expect any programs or unit to do this. Okay, so this is another example with those programs with tracks. They somehow laid it out or plan it out on when do they actually assess each of their tracks. If they're, I believe the Master of Business Administration has like 10 or even more concentration. So this is some example for them that they can model, like a model for them. All right, so with that being said, let me see. Now, when we have all our assessment profile in place and it's all reflected in the assessment platform that we're using, and now we're ready to start with our assessment plan. Our assessment plan is always due every year on October 1st. And the elements of the assessment plan are listed here. Again, since we are required to conduct assessment annually, we are only requiring one outcome to be assessed in each year. So if you have 5 program learning outcomes or student support or administrative outcomes, it's really up to you on which outcome you want to assess in any year. Now, on the academic side, it is part of, we are kind of like reinforcing it back. It used to be there before with, for those people who are familiar with the Word document submission in the past to be sent to through emails back and forth. Curriculum alignment matrix is part of the assessment plan. So we kind of like stopped doing that after the COVID because everybody's just doing their best. We are all back to zero and we're trying our best to do what we can. Now that we are post COVID, it's been like what, 4 or 5 years now, we are reinforcing it back. It needs to be there simply because when you conduct or create your assessment plan, at least on the academic side, you want to make sure that your measures are aligned with your curriculum. Now, the third bullet point here, it's clearly written that multiple assessment measures are required for each outcome. Now, in the past, for the academic side, we are requiring at least one formative and one summative. We kind of like abolished that. We made it more relaxed in a sense that we are only requiring at least one direct, and that's for both academic and administrative side. Now, for the academic side, we are requiring at least one assessment that will occur in a course where the outcome is designated as mastered or at the higher level. So it could be a course or even an instrument, because there are academic programs who are using assessment measures that is outside their courses, like comprehensive exam or thesis or dissertation or something along those lines. Now, part of the assessment plan, we need to have criteria for success for each of our measure. Of course, this is like your achievement target. So if you chose, for example, a dissertation, what's your achievement target for that? And lastly, part of the plan is the planning process. This is very important on our accrediting body side with SACS, because in the planning process narrative, it asks who are the participants of the planning process, and why the program or the unit chose to assess this particular outcome. There are no right or wrong answers to this, because again, it depends on what the situation of the program or the unit. We just need to reflect and inform why we're doing what we're doing. All right, so just to give you a bit of a context, majority of our programs and units, you can see here, have between 3 to 5 program learning outcomes or outcomes. So last year, we have 146 academic programs, and we have 46 administrative units. So each year, roughly we receive this number of plans and report. So I'm not even talking about the report. We receive this number of plans and number of reports from programs and units. Sorry, this is wrong. This should be units. So you can clearly see that 90% of academic programs and all 80% of the units, they assess between 1 to 2 outcomes each year. With each of these outcomes requiring a multiple measure, we have analyzed the data. We've seen that most of these academic programs and administrative units are reporting maximum 2 measures. You can clearly see here. So there are only 4 units who are reporting 3 or more measures in a year. There are only 13 out of the 146 program who are reporting 3 and above measures. So why am I saying this? This just basically shows that assessment is a manageable workload, and it shouldn't be time consuming, especially when it is done by a team. And on the academic side, especially when the curriculum alignment matrix is already in place. So that's the context. Now, once we have all the elements of your plan, you can see this in our website. We have this timeline. After the September 15 due date, we have a 1-month period for our office and the members of the University Assessment Committee to actually process and review all those 146 plus 46 or 146 or 49 units. So right after the deadline, our office's job is to make sure that we have everything in place for the University Assessment Committee to review. So we need to download everything from the system. We have to check all the completeness of all the submissions, because we don't want to waste the committee's time, because this is something that they do for leisure. So they're not being paid to do this. It's part of their university service. So we want to make sure before the submission or the plan or report goes to their tables, they're all complete and ready for review. So we have 1 week to do that process. And then the university assessment committee will have 2 weeks to really review and look at and read all your assessment plan, at least for this part. And then once they're done, they get it back to us. Now, depending whether they are fully approved by the committee or it needs some revision, then we have another process within institutional effectiveness wherein we send notification to the assessment coordinators whether they need to revise something or it has fully been approved. Once you receive that notification from us, it will also be written in that auto notification that we have a 2-week time frame for any revision that needs to be done. All right. So now we're on the assessment report. Let's say we're done with the plan and we have conducted our assessment. The next year comes by September 15, which is every year, September 15, assessment report is due. So the elements of assessment report, of course, findings for each of the measures that you have submitted as part of your plan, analysis of results for each assessed outcome. I should put an emphasis on each assessed outcome here because there are some programs or units who are who assess who are assessing their outcomes, multiple outcomes, but the analysis are pretty much the same. So it's like a copy paste of one outcome to another. Just to give you an idea, each outcome is unique. Like on the academic side, for example, one outcome is looking at, let's say, communication skills, and another outcome that they assess on the same year is looking at, I don't know, critical knowledge or critical thinking skills. So those two outcomes are different. So the analysis and the measures being used for each of those outcomes are different. So the analysis should also be different and not the same for both. Now, the use of results, the third bullet point here, this is just an assessment terminology, but this is like what the SACS is asking, like the seeking improvement. This is like the recommendation or action plan, or even the changes that you have already made during that period. So this is something based on the data or based what you found out or the conclusions. What are you going to do after that? Now, the reporting process is pretty much the same as the assessment planning process. Now, it asks who are the participants of the reporting process within your program or unit. And at the same time, if this is like the second or even third or even more time that you have assessed the same outcome, how is it compared to the last time that you assessed that outcome? What's the impact? So in 2021, for example, you have assessed one outcome and then you are reassessed that this year. Do you see any trends? Are there any changes or huge impact in terms of the skill of students or the services that you have provided and all that? So all of that will be written in your narrative. And of course, the important thing is if you are recommending something, you have to mention when are you planning to implement that recommendation. Okay, there's a question from Moses. What does the term direct refer to in terms of assessment measures? Direct measure is something that you can tangibly see that your student is achieving. It's like the quizzes, the exams that you're providing your students. As long as you're not capturing students' perception, that is considered direct measure. All right, so similar to assessment plan, once we receive your reports, we have another 1 month time frame, and this is very important and critical because the University Assessment Committee will review this and provide some feedback. So before you can actually implement or recommend some changes, it needs to be like completely explained or clarified. For the plan, it's the same thing. If you submit your plan and it has not been reviewed yet, um, and then you start conducting your assessment, and then there are some questions or some situations that it needs to be clarified, uh, it kind of like defeats the purpose of the entire process. That's why it's very important that we submit on time so that everything will be on time or on schedule. Yes, you can still use the spring semester or the summer semester, but we're trying to capture the entire year here so that we'll get more data and much more accurate results for the entire year. So same for the plan and report. We have 1 week for the internal initial process, 2 weeks for the University Assessment Committee to review your reports, and another week for our final process for like fully being approved or some revisions needed. And then once it is returned back to the assessment coordinators, we have a 2 week time frame to do some revisions if needed. All right, I always want to show this diagram to everybody. So in this diagram, you can see in the yellow part, these are the information or the data that you are providing us, the university. And based on your data, which are aligned with your outcomes, with your mission statement, it kind of like feeds our mission, our university mission, as well as the strategic initiatives and attributes. The strategic attributes is converted to institutional goals, like those core competencies in terms of the academic side, like the communication, application of knowledge, critical thinking, ethics, and all those kinds of things. So everything that we do in terms of assessment, they are all connected to each other that feeds our mission statement, which what our office has been using to provide like evidentiary documents to our SAC COC or our accrediting body. All right, so this is just a sample timeline. Well, it has all those due dates on what we're actually doing in a particular year, but there are like two recommended items here. Some programs and units are doing this. They have their own assessment day, like when they get back from summer, they meet together and discuss what happened from the previous year. And they also start planning out on what they're planning to do this new or current year. So I also added here the assessment profile proposal, which is due September 1. This is a very strict deadline, but sometimes if we see that the proposal is really easy to do, that it in 1 week it will be done, we accept it, especially if the unit or the program needs it to be taken into effect on that same year. If you see that October 1st is the due date for assessment plans, and the proposals are due September 1st. So we are only having like 1 month time frame to process those proposals. And there are some proposals that are really heavy and hard to do, meaning they have fully revamped their programs, like the list of their outcomes have been changed, all of them, and the mission statement, including their goals. So that takes a lot of time. And we also respect the time of the committee members. We cannot just tell them, hey, do this. So we need to give them enough time to process and fully review this proposal. So I think 1 month is feasible. But if you are planning to change anything within your assessment profile, your outcome statements, it would be better to submit it ahead of time, like even before the new academic year starts. All right. It's also listed here, like beginning of spring semester, we have this new mechanism. We started this last year, wherein we provide the aggregated result or feedback summary to the deans and chairs, just for them to know what's going on within their domain, within their department. So these are personalized and only shared within the team. So the department chairs and the deans can see which part of their plan or report needs some revisions or needs something to look at. And there are some links there if the deans or chairs chose to look at the individual report or plan and even the rubric that has been created for those plans and reports. And here you can see before the spring semester ends, we try to make sure that we provide a full aggregated report to everybody, shared to everyone. So all your data and information are collected, analyzed, and created into a one big report that is easily digestible. One page, the very first page of that report have the statistics of what we have accomplished during that particular year. So I'm pretty sure most of you are aware that you've been receiving this from our office every year. You're good, Kevin. All right. So the last slide here is the resources. Maybe I will ask my colleague, Dr. Warway, to talk about this. Germonju, do you want to step in?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Kutova. Let me put up this screen and share. So if you've been on our website maybe sometime before, um, maybe you've been on our website quite recently, you might notice that we've uh kind of had some changes. I won't really consider it changes, but there have been some improvements in terms of making sure that our website has a lot of, most of those resources that you would typically reach out to us for. We want to make sure that accessibility is one thing that we prioritize uh, here in our office. So this is the website. We have Dr. Jofa mentioned about, the framework. The framework has its own page. If you click on this, it takes you there. But also, we have some of us have already used the consultation. Um, it's kind of in the signature of our MSU email, but we'll also have it in the website as well. So just in case you want to book a consultation with us, maybe come in and talk about your assessment, your report, your plan, or maybe schedule a Zoom, or sometimes we can even come over if that's what you probably would prefer. So all of what was talked about minutes ago, you can also find them over here. For example, the framework, you have the entire process that was described to you is all laid out here on our website. The elements of the plan, uh, details of what is required in each of those elements. They are all laid out on the website as well, including the reports. We have a playlist. Some of us probably used last year uh, YouTube tutorials video that we prepared for helping you walk through sport. So we have it all linked over here. And for some of us who probably, the video is not our way of getting things to us, we have a PDF manuals as well that is linked here. We'll try to make sure that all of these links are working. But just in case you click on one of those and you probably see that it's not working, please don't hesitate. Just reach out to us and we'll pretty much try to rectify that. But I think we showed it worked. But just to say that. And then we have the report elements, like I mentioned, and these are the playlists, both for programs. So we have these tutorials that are, they've been creative for academic programs as well as for administrative units because we understand there are quite nuances between the two divisions. So, and then some of what we mentioned about assessment reports, we have copies of those reports. You can also check out if you want to look at previous reports that was done. They're all just on the website here. So that's what the framework has, the resources has, internal resources. We're still working on our boot camp, the institutional assessment learning series. If some of you remember, we did this I think it was last spring. Uh, we enjoy the attendance. We probably will want more people to attend this time around. But we've had it was a very amazing interaction. We had some of your colleague in the administrative unit and as well as the academic side of our community here who presented. And the presentations, if you were part of some of the presentation, you remember that it was kind of each program of academic unit telling their story as it relates to what they do in terms of assessment, how this process is helping them, or how they design internally in terms of assessment, how to improve based on the results they have. So it's a very good learning process, a reflection process that we expect this to be an opportunity that we can all learn from one another and just see what other people are doing around. This is a big university, to say the least, and at least you probably don't know what other people doing out there, but attending some of these sessions can be great. And we have these information sessions. We have some of these sessions are on sport, the deadline, some of what we just talked about by the director. They're all here just in case you miss something here and you can reach to us. There are ways you can also reach to some of those informations we have here on the website. Yeah, so talking about the YouTube channel, this is the channel, is MSU Assessment. Um, we have a playlist of each that I mentioned. We have the administrative unit report. We have the plan, the ILS that I mentioned. We have the entire playlist is also on the YouTube channel, as well as the sport info tutorial. They are also here on our channel. We also have uh, yeah, so this is where you sign in to be part of our assessment. I was trying to struggle with, yeah, you can go
Mailing
ahead.
list.
Mailing list. Yeah, thank you for that. The mailing list. Yes, so this is the mailing list, and we encourage, I pretty much sure a lot of you probably are part of the mailing list, but if you're not, we encourage you to be a part of it because we have another part of what we do in terms of reaching out and making sure that assessment is better for everyone. We have this weekly tip we send out. But when it gets really busy over here, like you heard a few minutes ago, we have over 100 plus to go through and make sure that everything is ready. It gets really busy. So sometimes the weekly tip might be delayed after some period of time. And then when things really, it doesn't really quiet down over here, but at least when it slowed down a little bit, then, it will be great that you also be part of our weekly tip because we have some really great tips that you might find useful doing your planning or reporting process. And this is what we all pretty much familiar with what it is. Uh, but I just wanted to, now that we're going towards the plan, I just wanted to walk us just through. If you already have the platform, you're probably aware that once you hit on all assessment, and all of this is in the video, by the way, you would pretty much see, okay, yeah, there we go. You will have your specific program coming up. In this case, it's on a water basket. This is one of our, we just created this as mock so that we demonstrate. Thanks to Dr. Cordova for this. So once you open it up, this is where a lot of people really, I don't know, because of the contrast or maybe the coloring, a lot of people miss where the outcomes is or reviews. Uh, the outcome is up here, you get to your outcome, and if you decided that this outcome in 25, 26, period oh 01 is what you want, two ways you could go about it. You could either click on this arrow, or you could actually click on the outcome itself and it opens up and you have your measure up here. For now, you only want to work with your measure. Um, Measure, and you have your measure, the measure number. You can assign whatever number, preferably in an ascending order. Your measure title, there's the planning years usually should be there. And then you have the measure tab and a description of your measure, which is really important. This is where the USC will want to know what the measure is all about. And once you have your measure, then you have your criteria. So if we just put in something here just for, you know, uh, just for demonstration, then so we have our measure, and then just right after the measure, you can either click on this arrow, and then this pops up. You click on plus sign, and then here you have your criteria in. So you put in the criteria, and again, there are videos for it. I don't want us to, probably some of you have questions, so I'm just going to skip on this for now. But just to give an idea on the species that we expect and how to get to them in sport. So the measure the criteria, and then you go to your review session. Um, okay, my review session probably. Let me just go back one step. Yeah. So you go to the review session, and in your review session, you should come to assessment planning. Over here, you have to put in your planning process narrative. Um, some of us forget about this to associate our outcomes. We don't mind associating it, but the most important thing is you need your narrative over here, and then you approve using these dots, just albeit. So it's just trying to go over what is expected right now. And again, we are here to help, and there are videos to help. We have our website as well, a lot of resources, the manuals, and all of that. They are there to help. So, yeah, that's as far as it is when it comes to the resources.
All
I'm
right.
going to start. I'm going to
Yeah.
start sharing now. Okay.
Okay. I think we are ready for any questions that you have in mind. It's pretty quiet.
Seems like everybody got it nailed down.
I
Well,
have a question
I
about
speak a
the
little
Sure.
fast, so if you didn't hear me,
Sorry.
you can still ask. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead,
I
Angie.
I have a question about the years for the cycle. So is it what you showed in there? Is it last year was our first year and we're in our second year of the 3-year cycle currently?
This is just an example, Angie. We can look at your existing or current assessment cycle because it changes every after 3 years. And not all units and not all academic programs have the same exact cycle.
Oh,
So
okay.
you could be on the first year of your new cycle, or you could be the first or second year of your new cycle. It doesn't it's up to the department or the program. So I can look at that for you and then maybe send you an email.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Go ahead, Moses.
Hi, thanks for this session today. It's very helpful as always. So my question is, excuse me, did you say that we're no longer required to identify formative and summative measures?
Yes.
Oh,
We kind of like made it much more relaxed because in the past, what we noticed when we were analyzing all the assessment reports as a whole, there are like programs who are reporting program learning outcomes, but the measures are coming mostly from lower level courses that doesn't really capture the program, if you see what I'm saying. So what we did with the help of the university assessment committee, of course, and the provost office is that why don't we just make it like at least one direct measure, which could be also a measure that would be coming from a course that is designated as a master. So that's hitting one bird in two stone. Oh, two birds in one stone. If that makes sense.
yeah, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
when we're creating our plans and writing our reports, we need
Mhm.
to describe a direct measure for each outcome that we're measuring.
Yeah, so for each outcome that you plan to assess in
Hmm.
any particular year, you need to have a multiple measure. When we say
Okay.
multiple, there should be at least two there,
Okay.
right? And at least one of those two measures that you have, if you're just planning to provide two measures, it should be a direct and it should be coming from a mastery level based on your curriculum alignment matrix.
Okay. So mastery needs to be at least one of the components here to
Yes,
be
yes,
introduced or reinforced. Okay.
yeah, because we are assessing at the program level. If we
Mhm.
are only using a course where the skill is only introduced, it doesn't really provide you any information whether the student has mastered that skill or knowledge,
Mhm.
right?
Okay. And if we do find the formative and summative distinction helpful, can we continue to use that?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Yes, you can.
Okay. And I have one last question for you.
Sure.
When we're associating, oh, what is it? Um, it was one of the last slides. Dr. Warway was uh,
Okay. I
showing how
can
to associate outcomes.
mm-hmm.
And you click on the cog. It's the place where you are entering your reporting narrative, and you have to click on the cog wheel to associate
Yeah.
outcomes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we click on the wrong thing and we add something we didn't want to, how do we remove it? I accidentally put something
There's a
in my report. I associated the wrong thing. I tried to
yeah.
remove it, but instead I replicated, and so now there's kind of a mess that you'll see
Are you
when you
talking about the report or the
yeah, the
plan?
report. The report. So the editing screen that has the
Okay.
cog wheel and it says associate outcomes. Yeah.
Okay. So when you go here
Yes,
and
that. And you insert
yeah,
evidence outcomes. If you
um,
click the
you
wrong one,
can,
how do you
this
disassociate
is,
it?
yeah, this is like delete the objective.
Oh, I
So
didn't
you can
see that.
delete it here. So there's
Okay.
this trash
Mhm.
can icon. So
Okay, huh.
if you delete that and then just save it, it will be saved for you.
I didn't see that. That's strange. I'll have to go back and look, I guess. Okay, thank you for all
Yeah,
your help today. Appreciate it.
you're welcome. Sure. Do we have any other questions? Burning questions?
I wanted to say, and Dr. Jova, you could add to this. And the question about mastery level, there are
Mm-hmm.
some programs that have comprehensive exam, and it's a combination of courses that pretty much maybe from the introductory to the reinforced level. And then they probably have the comprehensive exam, which is like you mentioned, measure also have courses that they consider as the mastery level. So that could also be considered as a mastery level for outcome, right? So that,
Yes,
yeah.
that's yeah. If it's a comprehensive exam, most comprehensive exam targets multiple program learning outcomes, so they can use that as well. But if they chose, I mean, if the programs choose to use a measure that is outside the curriculum, they should probably contact us because there's a different way on how we report that in the system. I think I heard somebody who has some questions. Do we have other questions? All right. If we don't have any other questions, or if you find yourself like lost somewhere in SPAL, or you don't know where to find the resources, we are always available, not 24/7, but during office hours. You can call us, you can send us an email, or you can drop by our office. We are at 324 Wells Hall. We are here. We are your partners in this process. You can always contact us if you have any issues or questions. Again, thank you all for attending. We appreciate you, your contributions, and we will send these slides to everybody so there's something that you can refer back to later on. Again, thank you and have a nice day, everyone.